We are talking still with South Africa Cities Network Program Manager Nosipho Hlatshwayo, as well as the national spokesperson of SAMU Papiki Mohale. Nosipho, let's bring you back here. So, when we are talking about funding models and sources of revenue, right, and the making up of the 90%, one of the conversations, for example, I had with one of the political parties was that the city of Tshwane fails creatively to market itself to its consumers to convince them to pay for services. I mean, what do you make of that as a reason why they are poorly collecting what they need to collect as revenue?
There's a few reasons. So if you think about where municipalities get its monies from, most of it comes from your service charges. So when municipalities levies you, you get a bill for water, for electricity. And that makes the bulk of at least of the municipal funding, especially your category A municipalities or metropolitan municipalities. And then you've got your property rates, which contribute towards the city's finances. And then there might be other smaller levies that municipalities would collect. Now, what happens is the notion that says the city needs to market itself to be able to collect those services, that would be like saying my service provider for the telecommunications company needs to market itself for me to pay for a telephone line that I've used. I don't agree with that, but I also understand the difficulties that the consumer faces in a municipality. When a consumer is not employed, or when a consumer is employed, but the employment is so unsecure, they have to decide what to pay between buying food and paying for the municipality. That is the difficulty. The current economic climate does not make it easy for municipalities to collect their services. But I'm not also going to shy away from the fact that when there is disruptions and lack of continuity in terms of services, that also might contribute maybe to a very small percentage, the reluctance of some of the consumers to pay for their services when there are bill queries and things like those. But to be quite honest, the economy and the fact that we are experiencing over time these huge numbers in terms of unemployment, the situation is not going to change unless we do something very drastic to change our economic situation.
Moving away from the cities, let's look at what Papiki was talking about, municipalities in the outskirts of the Eastern Cape, in the outskirts of the Free State, where the economic opportunities there are even more rare than you would find in the cities. There is a degree of non-compliance there as well, not deliberately so, but because they just cannot afford those services. How do you deal with the question of collection of revenue in that context?
It's also an economic factor, but also it's a special factor. So deciding or determining that a municipality needs to be established where there is no economic base, if one was to put it like that, that is a problem on its own. Some of these local governments or municipalities that we find in these provinces, you find that they are really struggling. One, because there's no economic base, or number two, where there was an economic base, it is in such a state of decline that the young people or anyone that has got skills, they are moving to bigger cities, and that's why we're finding that there's a lot of people that you find in your metropolitan municipalities, and these municipalities are deserted. When people move, then it means that your rate base, it reduces, unfortunately. So something needs to shift. That is going to say, how do you create this urban-rural balance? Because we need them, and most of them are in rural areas. We need the rural economy to thrive, not only to support the people that are in that rural economy, it's to the benefit of us people in the cities as well, but also to make sure that any economic activity that is taking place in those areas is able to contribute to the continued provision of services. And one obviously relies on the efficiencies of that municipality to collect what is due to it.
Yeah. Papiki, let's talk about another issue. For example, if we look at the Tumahole situation it's the political instability. There are two schools of thought there. Right? It's a natural frustration of the community that got up and protested and wanted to make their grievances heard as far as the situation of water that doesn't start now, that started probably even in 2008 or even earlier than that. And then there's another school of thought that there are those who are using that particular grievance for the advancement of their political agenda. Now, as SAMU affiliated to the big organization and having impact in terms of the politics as well, are you able to intervene at that level?
I think our affiliation goes to a certain point. If we are not satisfied with things happening in a municipality, we would obviously raise the grievance that we have. But the intervention that we would make, Thabo, is that, remember, as I said earlier on, we are community members ourselves before we are municipal workers. So if for any reason there is an interruption of service delivery, we would actually be in the forefront, going to the municipality and saying, hey, there is no water in certain ward. We need the municipality to ensure that there is water provision so that everyone can have water. So that is our intervention. That's how far we can go. But at the end of the day, we are community members. We also need to benefit from delivery of services. Yeah.
And to what extent are your members who are workers in municipalities being, for lack of a better word, used and involved in terms of playing a role of sabotaging some of these services that need to be delivered?
It does not make sense why a worker would want to sabotage service delivery. You know this is where you get water. Why would you go and close water, resulting in a situation where in your own house does not have water? So those are the kind of things that we always have to defend our members against in the public domain, to say our members are not capable of doing such because they are conscious, they are community members, they know that whatever decision that they make, if indeed they were to sabotage service delivery, they themselves will be affected. So it serves no purpose for them, and as such, we always dismiss those allegations based on that.
Yeah, and as unions, as labor, as SAMU in particular, would you, for example, stand in the way of a process that says those who are currently directors or whatever position of authority or leadership that they are currently holding and do not hold the necessary qualification, they would need to reapply in that position and be reassessed if whether or not they are fit for purpose?
You see, that one is a double-edged sword. In one, you would have to institute disciplinary action against the people that have hired that individual who does not have the qualifications. And number two, you would have to look at it this way. When the vacancy was advertised, did it specifically indicate that we need such and such qualification? And if the individual lied or misrepresented their qualification, unfortunately, that is a misconduct, and disciplinary measures would have to be instituted. But as a trade union, we have an obligation to our members to defend them against such. Yeah. But to add, sorry?
No, I'm saying, but as a trade union, you're also aware of political interference in particular appointments that would have been made prior to the situation. So you have a CFO that is not qualified, right? Hence, we are ending up in a situation where we have to go and get consultants and spend millions of rands for people to come and sort out the books. Yet what we need to do is get rid of the CFO who is not qualified, who was appointed because of political interference, and appoint somebody who is.
Yes, we would obviously not be against such a move of saying that we need a person that is qualified to be occupying that position. Indeed, there are instances wherein you have positions that are being filled based on party allegiances. And that is not our space to be in. We have no interest in political parties, their factions and everything that happens there. Ours is service delivery. If an individual is there, rightfully so, that individual should serve the residents. And if that individual does not deserve to be there, that individual should not be there, because we need competent people to ensure that services are delivered to South Africans.
I appreciate you both, and thank you very much. Because of time, we'll leave it there for tonight. Of course, it's a complicated topic that is ongoing in how we resolve the situation at our local municipalities.